It's Roger once again today with a good friend. Carl Smith sent me this map by Herodotus, one of the earliest maps ever made. And Herodotus, if you don't know who he is, he was the father of history, they used to call him. And they also used to call him the father of all lies. It never ends. It never ends. Back even in his day, 450 BC, he did this map. And he traveled. Here's what happened with Herodotus. He was a historian, and a brilliant historian. Trust me, I read this stuff, and it is unbelievable. You should read his stories. Now, what he did, he traveled every single place in the known world that he could. And his own words, he says, all he did was write down the stories related that they related to him. That's all. He put a little spin on it here and there, but no big deal. Just, here's what they said happened. Case closed. Now, so what am I talking about Herodotus for? Well, Carl sent me this map, and he made a pretty brilliant observation that I missed. And, he's been giving me a lot of tips on the dragon, and we've been going back and forth. And by the way, Carl, my good friend, somehow I got bounced back from your email. It didn't work. So I don't know what to say. But anyway, I don't know what to say, even know how to get a hold of you now. Anyway, let's go through this, and maybe at the very end I'll make a statement about it, Carl. Anyway, here we got. This is the map. Now, he made notes on all the people that he met and what was here. These are mountains. You see, these are mountain ranges. Now, what do we have here? Atlantis Mountains, Atlas Mountains. And in the ancient stories, that was Atlas. And what does it say right there? Atlantis. That was Atlantis. And what is this coming out of here? What the hell is that? Guess what it is? It happens to be the Nilus. And where does that go? To the Nile River. Now, so he says, well, maybe this is the source of the Nile, is your dragon. And I'm thinking, whoa, he could be onto something. So I decide, well, I'm going to look up and see who decided where the source of the Nile came from. Because I'm telling you right now, the earth is alive, and the waters that flow in this earth and on this earth are a product of a creature. Think what you will. That's my statement. Now, so where do these waters come from? And where do all the waters come from in the earth? They don't come from, they're coming out of the earth. It rains and they go back down into the earth, absolutely, but they are coming out of the earth from special places. Now, let's look into this story. What is going on with the Nile? Why does he have things, Atarantes, Garamantes? What is all that about? Now, let's take a look at another one of his maps that had illustrations on it. All right. Now, this is the map based on his writings. And here's what it's showing. You see that little... looks like a little eyeball with eyelashes, and then you got Ararantes and Aquila and Garamantes and Thesbos and Amania. Those are islands. They're islands. There's the Nile River, and it ended up going all the way back to here. See this little squiggly lines? That's the mountains. Mountains over here, the Caucasus. So anyway, he was very articulate about the way he wrote everything. Herodotus, the two gulfs ran into the land so as almost to meet each other, and left between them only a very narrow tract of country. Nikos started a canal to the Red Sea, which was finished by Darius. 4 days' journey long was the canal. The water is derived from the Nile, Herodotus 2:158. Now, in all of his books, absolutely fabulous. And it's just, here's what it is, here's what it does, they said about it, and we'll go on to the next one. So, now, let's again, since we're here, let's talk about what happened. There was supposedly, this is all ocean. And I know for a fact, as I've shown over many times, it drained out of here right across Atlantis out into the Atlantic Ocean. And there's a giant fish and a giant dragon there, and the Nile could possibly go here. Now, if you read the emerald tablets of Thoth, who is also Hermes, who is one of the saviors of man. He talks about being the ruler of Atlantis. He was the king of Atlantis. And when he left Atlantis after it collapsed, they arrived in Ethiopia, in the highlands of Ethiopia, to the savages attacking him. And he used his powers to freeze them in their tracks like stone. This is what it says. Use vibration. He said, I use my magical powers of vibration. And they froze like stone. They could not move. When he released them, after talking to them very gently, telling them that they were much more advanced to them, they will allow them to live in peace, and they're going to work with them and everything. Here's what they're going to have to do, is be their subjects, basically. And then he released them from this vibrational grasp. They fell at his feet, kissed his feet, and from then on, and they were the Longheads, the Atlanteans, is my belief. And a Thoth was like a bird-headed creature. I don't know what else to say. They came from Atlantis. Atlantis was owned by Poseidon. That was his kingdom originally, and a Thoth must have been one of his descendants. This is all I can come up with. Now, that's the water guy. This is water. I mean, the whole thing was water. He was a controller of the water. Very, very mysterious stuff. It's time to start looking into this as you know, for the value that it may present. I'm not saying every word of it's true, but I'm telling you right now, I have found a lot of those words true. And if you could see it in any other light, I don't know what to say. I think you got to turn the light up, because you're not seeing it brightly enough. All right, I want to say something about Mudfossil University. It is the source of learning. It is the learning source. It is not. Nobody tells anybody anything that they don't have to. That they have to repeat. You don't have to repeat anything. You can say whatever you want. But we look at the evidence and then we draw conclusions. Now, he drew a conclusion here I don't go along with, but it's a conclusion that it led to another conclusion that I think might be true. As I went and looked over, he says, guessing this was the gargantuan wound, in other words, the source of the Nile. Herodotus mapped the source of the Nile originally as the Atlas Mountains. He's guessing it's a gargantuan wound. So I said, wow, that's a fabulous guess. And I'm thinking, wow, the guy's onto something. So I go back here and I look at his map, of course. I showed you that. And then I go onto Google Earth and I'm looking at this. And here's the Nile. All right, so let's take it from the way we do things. We look at the evidence. Here's the Nile, and it sweeps all the way around here on Herodotus' map over here into the Atlas Mountains somewhere. So I'm looking at it and I'm thinking, how would it do that? Is there any evidence left on the Earth to support that? And I look, and sure enough, there is. If you follow this down, and follow it down, and you see this border of green here, this stripe of green, that indicates to me that this is there was originally some source of a borderline water area here. All right? And I can see little bits and pieces if you look around. And then when you get all the way over to here, it starts to become a little more apparent. And it comes together and it comes up in this area. Some here, some over here, but this is the one that interests me because there's obviously something going on here between this area. At some point there was some form of a extreme difference in these two spots here. So where does it go? Guess where it goes? It goes right up to Atlantis. Right up here. Comes right out of here. So I'm thinking maybe it's Atlantis. I mean, that's as best I can come up with. I'm not saying it is for sure Atlantis, but there's something. This came way up here, and then this is down, and it got covered with mud. Something dropped that area there. And Atlantis was Poseidon's home, and he was the water guy. So that's all I can say is possible. So now I think, well, his original claim was possibly the neck of the dragon. So I come over here and I go in here to look at the neck of the dragon, where it was cut, and that's right down here where it's gushing out over here. You see, cut straight across. It says in the text, with a great and mighty sword. And it ran out all over here. That's the effluent. And people should know the dragon by now. So I'm thinking, let me turn this to make a little more sense. So I'm thinking, was the dragon the source of this runoff? And I said, no, it couldn't have been, because of the giant fish. I can't believe I'm talking like this. I mean, nobody could believe me. People can't get their head around this. But, I mean, this gigantic dragon trying to kill the gigantic fish, and the source of the Nile could not be the dragon's sliced throat, because of the fish in the way of the dragon's sliced throat. I don't know, how can you say this with a straight face? I don't know what to say. But I am seeing Atlantis over here. Oh my God. Draining off through here. And it drained out into the ocean. All right, if you never saw this before, you're probably thinking, this guy is totally off his rocker. Well, if you stop and take a look at this, you're going to find out that my rocker is not off of anything. This thing here is a dragon. It is. And I figured out how the dragon spit all this nasty stuff at the fish to try to kill him. It came right out of these glands right here in his throat. I just came up with this the other day. You see these glands? And that is some nasty, nasty stuff. And he spit it right out at the dragon. I mean, at the fish. You see that stuff? And when it mixes with the red stuff, it really gets ugly. These are like glands. See it? I love this stuff. It's just absolutely fascinating. I don't know what to make of it in the overall eternity that I am looking at. But, I mean, that is the stuff the dragon is spitting at this gigantic fish. And it hit the fish and it hurt him. It cut right into his fin, and then it ate up his back. You see that right there? That's vital flesh destroyed by dragon spit, whatever it is. And that's a fish. That's his scales. He's going this way because the scales go this way. If he went this way, the water would push the scales up that way. Do you understand? Now, his face is obscured. But anyway, Carl, my good friend, that I don't believe is the source of the water, unless the fish died afterwards. But anyway, now at this point, it's all dried up. And it no longer shows the evidence of any real anything other than this. I'm seeing this here, and then I see it down in here. If you get far enough away, sometimes you can see better than close. And I think there was, see there's a borderline there? Why would that be there? Why would there be a borderline there? I really have no clue as to whether it is or not. But I would take Herodotus' word for it before I took anybody in this century, or last century, or even a century before that. Okay, this last word is for Carl. You see what happened, Carl? Bounce. Nobody@gmail.com. I don't know what that's all about. An error occurred of trying to send you this message. And by the way, the no-toes that you were asking about being an exoskeleton, they're not. They're an internal, so the toes are internal. I could see in the Sumerian picture we were working with, you were sending me, you could see the toes are visible, so they're regular feet on the, but I do know they did have those exoskeletons. I've seen those, and I think they must have had to assist themselves somehow for the gravity, or I don't know why, but maybe it was just some fancy looking stuff they wanted to wear, who knows. But the no toes are somewhat different. Anyway, God bless you all. Thank you, Carl. Hit me again with an email. I'll see if we can get together somehow. Thanks. Bye.